Welcome back to another episode of the Untitled Football Podcast, coming to you every Tuesday and Thursday at 8 a.m. in the morning, unless something happens. And if something does happen, make sure you hit the notification bell so you get a notification every time I drop a new video, because I'm dropping a mock draft on Friday. I don't know which time, so to make sure you see it on time, make sure you see the video, subscribe, hit the notification bell, so you get notified every time I drop a video. You know, it sounded like a typical YouTuber right there. I don't like doing that, but whatever. You might see I got a new layout. If you've watched the podcast multiple times, if this is your first episode, well, welcome in, subscribe, like. You know, I'm trying to make a living, so whatever. Anyway, let's get on to the Week 9 preview, and we're gonna start with the Thursday night game, which is the 49ers versus the Green Bay Packers, which looked amazing on paper coming into the season. Super Bowl runner-ups, 13-3 Packers, who might have been a bit fraudulent for 13-3, but whatever. And they might be a bit fraudulent this year. I'll talk about that right now, I guess. I mean, the Packers look almost like they did last season, beat up on bad teams. Because like last season, they played 7 backup quarterbacks, or 7 current backup quarterbacks, like Mitch Trubisky, Joe Flacco, Dwayne Haskins, and Kyle Allen starting, but Kyle Allen was a backup. So, I mean, they played a really easy schedule. And they were 13-3, and they got hammered by every team that was good that they played. And they even lost to the Eagles and the damn Chargers, who were 6-10, but the Chargers had like a point margin that was above the Seahawks, interestingly enough. But the Seahawks are just a weird team that play weird games every game. But anyway, they look kind of like that this year. They beat up on the bad teams. They got hammered by the Bucs. So they look like they're in a similar spot than they were last year. That they were in last year. Now, the 49ers probably constitute more as a bad team because they have been the exact same as what I just described for the Packers. So, I don't know. And they have Nick Mullins starting, which is definitely not going to help. Because Jimmy G is out for 6 weeks with an ankle sprain. So, that means... I mean, is there a huge difference between Nick Mullins and Jimmy G? I mean, I think Jimmy G is pretty good, but he's been disgustingly bad this season. So, Nick Mullins hasn't been terrible, and except for a start where he was disgusting against the Eagles. So, like, maybe he's not good. He's like the Colt McCoy. Colt McCoy, when he used to play for Washington, used to come in and be at least decent. And then the next week, when teams actually got the game plan for him, he was terrible. And it also helps that Jay Gruden's not an offensive mastermind in the way that Kyle Shanahan is. So, I mean, if there's somebody I would trust to get a good game out of Nick Mullins, it would be Kyle Shanahan. He's done it before. He did it against the Giants, I'm not thinking about it. But at the same time, the Giants are much worse than the Packers. I think the Packers are way better than the Giants, whether they're overrated or not. I don't know, because I think the Packers should probably win this game. I don't think I talked about the line, though. The Packers are 6-point favorites. So, is there a little value on the 49ers there? I mean, at that number, yes. But I don't know how... I mean, I don't think the 49ers are that good with Jimmy G this year. So, I don't know. It might be a bad play to go with the 49ers. So, Green Bay lost to the Vikings, who are terrible. And the Vikings had a ton of injuries in the secondary, got more injured to a secondary that was already terrible, and they still beat Green Bay. I mean, Rodgers wasn't awful. It was just a very weird game. It was not that many offensive possessions to be had. Both teams had these long-ass drives. But anyway, yeah, Nick Mullins. I don't have that much faith in Nick Mullins, so I'm gonna go with Green Bay to cover. Yeah, I'm gonna go with Green Bay to cover because I don't have that much faith in Nick Mullins. So, yeah. But anyway, on to the next game though. We have Titans versus the Bears. The Titans come into this game as 5.5-point favorites over the Bears. And this is probably the battle of teams that are a bit worse than their record is. Because the Bears are 5-3 now, I think, actually. And the Titans are like 6-2 or whatever, something like that. So both these teams are probably worse than their record. Though I do think the Titans are pretty good, and offensively at least. Their defense is kind of bad, but they do have like their best player and most valuable player on that unit injured in Adoree Jackson. So, and they also just added Desmond King, so it could be trending upwards for their defense. Like, they have the guys to put together a defensive performance, and that's kind of all that matters because defense isn't that stable from week to week anyway. And on the Bears side, you have a team that has the pieces on offense to put together like good performances. From a weapon standpoint, maybe not quarterback, and even still, Foles can go off for big games, which he hasn't necessarily done this year. The offense has been pretty bad this season for the Bears, whether it was Mitch Trubisky or Nick Foles in the game. It just hasn't been good. Their defense has been fine though, but I mean, when you're not putting up points, that doesn't really matter. The Bears are 27th in EPA per play generated on offense, which is terrible. One of the worst in the league, as you can imagine, because there's 32 teams in the NFL. But yeah, they're one of the worst offenses in the NFL from an efficiency standpoint. Just from a raw points per game standpoint, I think, too. They just don't score at a high rate. And the Titans do, though. The Titans, even still with some pretty bad back-to-back performances, are number one in EPA generated on offense. And they're second in EPA generated on pass plays, and they're fourth on run plays. So, I mean, they have an all-around amazing offense. Derrick Henry actually hasn't been that good, though. I don't know how the hell they made it up to 4. Well, I mean, Derrick Henry does have 2 great, amazing games, but, I mean, outside of that, the baseline of the season for him has been pretty bad. He has, like, 2 games over 4 yards per carry, over 3 yards per carry. And to put that into context, Nick Chubb has 0 games under 5 yards per carry. Like, he played, 4 or 5 games this season, and he had over 5 yards per carry in all those games. And people want to say Derrick Henry's the best running back in the NFL. Yeah, okay. Like, Nick Chubb makes guys miss at a higher rate than Derrick Henry. Higher forced missed tackle percentage every year of his career. He has a much higher yards after contact per attempt, higher yards per attempt. The only difference is the volume of Derrick Henry getting about 300 whatever carries he gets a year. And, well, Nick Chubb was almost at 300 last year as well, but whatever. And then on defense, though, this is where it gets interesting. The Titans are 28th in EPA allowed, and the Bears are 7th. But a bad defense with guys that are capable of putting together performances versus a bad offense. That bad defense is probably going to look a little bit better. But then again, the Bears do have offensive weapons, so they could still look good against the Titans defense that looks bad against everybody. But I'm going to go with the Titans. I don't know if they'll cover 6. Or 5, I think. What the hell did I say the line was? 5? 5.5? Okay, yeah. I don't know if they'll cover 5.5, but I do think they'll win. Because I do think the Bears are a bit plucky. They might not be good. But they're a difficult team to blow out. Because Foles can make a big field-flipping chunk play basically any time. And their defense is pretty good, which, I mean, I don't matter that much, but yeah. On to the next game, though. And now we have the Vikings versus the Lions. Vikings coming off of an upset win against the Packers last week. The Lions coming off of getting manhandled by the Colts. The Vikings coming into this game as 4-point favorites, which is an interesting thing. Because I'm definitely leaning the other way, especially at that price. I do think the Lions are better than the Vikings. So without a doubt, I think the Lions are the pick here. I think they are. I think that price, 4 points. I don't think the Vikings are 4 points better. In fact, I'd probably swing that the entirely opposite direction. Or maybe even a pick line. Now that I think about it, I don't know. Because the Lions implode every game. Like, all of them. They are the Falcons. They are the Falcons reincarnated. And another... Hold on, I'll get to that a little bit later, actually. But they are the Falcons reincarnated. The Vikings, I mean, they have the weapons on offense. But, I mean, they didn't even use them last game. Like, I mean, their passing game is basically nothing. Except for, like, a Dalvin Cook screen pass that got taken all the way to the house. Other than that, they didn't really do shit passing the ball. Detroit, on the other hand... I mean, they looked good passing the ball against Atlanta, not so much against the Colts. They run the ball with 39-year-old Adrian Peterson way too often. Like, you've invested 2 first-round picks over the past couple of years on running backs, and you still opt to play a 35-year-old. To play a 35-year-old over both of them, who has the lowest forced missed tackle percentage in the NFL. I think he's 3 yards per carry on the season, and is somehow getting the workload. And they, for some reason, keep deciding to go to this give the ball to him on early down strategy, which doesn't work. It's just disadvantageous play calling. But I said they were the same tier as the Colts, despite the record discrepancy. What still actually might be true, but at times, like, I mean, that still probably is true, but I mean, they might be they might be slightly below the Colts, but like, I don't think the Vikings are as good though. The Vikings suck, so I'm gonna go with the Lions because the Lions are. Well, I don't know. The Galladay's not there. Galladay's not going to be playing, I don't think. Which, I mean, has been pretty big for the Lions. When he's on the field, they're like 3-2 or whatever. I mean, granted, they played an easier stretch of the schedule at that point, like, from that point of the season. So, like, maybe it's not the most indicative thing of... Maybe it's not the most related thing, I'd say. But, yeah, I don't think the Vikings are that good, though. They did play a pretty good game against Rodgers, who is better than Matthew Stafford, but I don't know. If they have Galladay, I think that's an easy Lions pick, but they don't though. Potentially, James, I might have to go the other way. I think I'm gonna go with. No, I'm not gonna go with Minnesota. I think I might go with Minnesota with the Detroit cover actually, because I don't think the Vikings. No, I'm gonna go with Detroit outright. Actually, I'm gonna go with Detroit outright over Minnesota. I just think they're better overall. Maybe not on defense because they've actually been just as disgusting as the Vikings on defense. So that's definitely not the reason. That's definitely not the reasoning behind me picking them. Like, they've been worse from an EPA allowed standpoint on defense. They're 29th. The Vikings are 24th. Both defenses are trash. Jeff Okudah has definitely been, I thought he would be like a pretty good, at least solid cornerback off the gate as like a plug-and-play type of guy who's ready for the NFL. He hasn't been good this season at all. Well, he's been pretty solid in man-to-man coverage, like I said in my last video, but everything else he's just been bad at. So, I mean, yeah, I'm going to go with the Lions, though, to win outright over Minnesota. Now we have Washington versus New York. Washington coming off of a bye week. The Giants coming off of a pretty close game against the Buccaneers. The line for this game is Washington -3. Interesting. Because the head-to-head, the Giants beat Washington, and they just played the Bucs close. So I don't know if there was any movement to this line, because I think it might have been out to at 5 earlier in the week. But let me look at the look ahead. The look ahead for this game was 3.5 Washington. That game was worth a half a point for the New York Giants. I mean, I don't know if Washington should be 3-point favorites versus anybody. They're really not that good, but nah. I mean, the Giants +3, I feel like is a good price. I mean, they only beat the Redskins by 1. I mean, damn. They only beat Washington by 1. And Washington didn't play good at all that game. And The Giants didn't either. Both teams are bad. So, in other words, that means I don't know. I think this is probably closer to a pick than a 3 point spread. I don't know. Washington did beat Dallas, but uh, Dallas might be the worst team in the NFL right now. So, or at least one of them. So anyway, Washington shouldn't. I don't think they should be 3 point favorites. With that being said, I think I might go Washington. But I mean, New York +3 seems like such a good price, though. Uh, I mean, the Giants are. I don't know. I think they might be a bit better than Washington. I think both teams suck, but I think the Giants have a slight edge over Washington in basically every area. But that's tough because I mean they just played the Bucks closely. I mean Daniel Jones played terribly last week, and they still ended up almost winning the game, mainly because the Bucks were like bad on offense. They kind of they had this terrible, not terrible, but they didn't have their best game offensively. There were some drops in there. They love running the ball on early downs, which just isn't a great strategy. So yeah, I mean, okay. I'd expect Daniel Jones to play better against Washington than he did against Tampa Bay. Whether that's good or not, I think that's still better than Kyle. I think it's still better than Kyle Allen. I mean, Kyle Allen just isn't good. And even and let me talk about this. They passed the trade deadline, and Washington still has Dwayne Haskins and Ryan Kerrigan on their roster. Like they should have got something for both of them, Kerrigan at least, because I think this is Kerrigan's contract season. I mean, he's been one of the better Redskins or dang. I mean, I guess he was a Redskin. Washington football team players over the past decade. But at this point, he's not. So, don't hold on to him as if he is. There has to be teams that are looking to get pass rush. Like Seattle. I mean, I know they got Dunlap, but maybe they're going to go all in this year. I don't know. Kerrigan would definitely help them. Tennessee, maybe. I mean, I think they love Harold Landry, who actually hasn't been good for like the past 3 seasons, or past 2 seasons. But yeah, who else could need pass rush? I mean, Kerrigan's not that good though, so maybe teams think that too. But I mean, he has this. He's okay. Like I don't think he was ever as good as people might have made him out to be. But he was pretty good. He was pretty good. He's not quite that anymore, but yeah. Anyway, New York is. I'm gonna go with New York +3 here. I think that they are a bit better than Washington. Washington is second in the division now, so this game would be for second place in the division because the Giants would have the tiebreaker because they would have beat the Washington twice, or they would have beat Washington twice. So. In this scenario. So, yeah, I think that they beat Washington. I just don't think Washington's that good. I mean, nor the Giants though. This is a tough game. I'll go with New York. Now we have Seattle versus Buffalo, which looked like it was going to be amazing earlier in the season until Josh Allen turned back into Josh Allen. Which means Seattle probably wins. Seattle's only 3 point favorites coming into this game. I mean, Seattle's defense sucks. And it is Seattle. So Seattle probably shouldn't be favored by more than like 5 points coming into any game, based off the fact that they don't win. They don't win convincingly ever. So, I mean, this is about right. This is about right. But Buffalo hasn't been good at all the past couple of weeks, though. I mean, they had a pretty solid game against New England, actually. But other than that game, they were bad against the Jets. They were bad against Kansas City. They were bad against Tennessee. I mean, it's not looking too good for Josh Allen and the Bills. This team, I was even giving him some Super Bowl hype based off the fact that Josh Allen became a viable quarterback, but it seems like that status has waned a ton. Because I was like, he's making these, he's making these big field flipping plays with his deep ball, but going back, his adjusted completion percentage is back to what it was last season. In the past couple of weeks, it is. I mean, hey, I'm not gonna say that I was saying he was gonna regress, but I was though. A lot of the stuff he was doing was unsustainable, but I didn't think it'd fall off a cliff this damn hard though. Anyway, though, the Bills 3-point dogs. I don't think that's a good line really, but sure. Well, I mean, I do because, the Seahawks don't win convincingly, but based off the talent level of these teams, I think there's a big gap between these two. I think they might be overvaluing how bad the defense of the Seahawks is, but, because, I don't know. The Bills' offense hasn't been good. Another number here, Josh Allen's adjusted deep ball completion percentage is 31st out of 31 qualifying quarterbacks at 16.7. So, yeah, that's interesting. Very interesting. Hey, I'm going to go with Seattle. I think Seattle's better. They have Carlos Dunlap coming in. Seattle's one of the best offenses in the NFL. One of the worst defenses to go with that, but the Bills' offense hasn't been that good either. So, at the same token, they might look at least respectable. And they have a lot of guys out. Like, I think that their defense is better than it's showing now due to all the injuries they have. Though even when everybody was healthy, they still weren't that good defensively. So maybe it's not all the injuries. It's not it's not all the injuries, but at the same time, it's not like they're not a great defense, but I think they're better than they're showing right now. So yeah, Seattle, I think they'll win. I think they'll cover. But this is Seattle we're talking about, so something weird probably is going to happen just because it's a Seattle game. On to the next one. Now we have the Baltimore Colts versus the Baltimore Ravens. Indianapolis Colts versus the Ravens. Baltimore is coming into this game as 2.5-point favorites over... Baltimore is coming into this game as 2.5-point favorites over Indianapolis, which seems generous. I don't know. I feel like they are kind of geared to stop. I think they are kind of geared to stop the Ravens in a way. They run all that soft zone. They give some stuff up underneath, but they restrict or limit big plays. Well, I guess that's the same thing. But they limit big plays because they're giving up more stuff underneath them. Which, interesting strategy. Baltimore hasn't looked great offensively, and Indianapolis has been pretty good defensively. I don't know if they've had one good defensive performance against a good team, except for, the Lions. That's, the best offense they've played. That's probably not the best offense they've played, but that's probably the best team they've actually had a good performance against defensively. The Ravens are built differently than all those other teams, though. So I don't know how this match is gonna go. I'm gonna pick Baltimore because I think they're significantly better. But there is a world in which Indianapolis wins. But Baltimore's defense is good, which something doesn't matter, but whatever. Their offense is good. I still think they're a better all-around team than Indianapolis. They could have beat the Steelers. They had a bunch of turnovers, though. I don't know. I feel like the Colts are just not... I'm still not that high on the Colts. I don't think they're that good of a team, honestly. I think that they're kind of overrated still. Especially coming off of that game against the Lions. I feel like they're not... I don't think they're that good. Basically what I'm trying to say. Their offense is kind of like bad. Even though they do have these good performances from time to time, the overall baseline of their team on defense, I mean on offense, isn't that good. But yeah, they love to run the ball. They're not necessarily good at it. Jonathan Taylor, does he even have over 3 yards per carry? He has one of the lowest forced missed tackle rates in the NFL. Like he hasn't been that good. Like I thought he was overrated coming out of the draft, and he's lived up to what I thought he would be. He's a good running back, and he hasn't even been a good running back, but I thought he would be a good running back behind a good offensive line, and he hasn't even been that. So that's why everybody was so high on him from a fantasy perspective, but he hasn't even lived up to that hype. I mean, the offensive line did take a drop down, but still. But then I go back here, I look at the EPA per play generated by both of these teams, and the Colts actually have a significantly better offense than the Ravens. The Ravens are 25th, and hold up. That's the last couple of weeks. On the season, the Colts are 14th in terms of EPA, and Baltimore's 21st, which is interesting. I mean, Baltimore hasn't been great offensively. I mean, I still feel like they're better than the Colts, but I don't know. We'll see about that. Because they haven't looked good. It's looked uncomfortable. It's been not a ton of, but like, well, it has been a ton of, but it's been more of a pass-heavy offense than it was last season. And it's like, I don't think it's because people figured Lamar out. I mean, he does have limitations as a passer. Like, him throwing outside of the numbers is atrocious. Like, his completion percentage, adjusted completion percentage, accurate pass percentage, throws outside the numbers is pretty bad. So forcing him to throw there, I guess, is a weakness of Lamar Jackson. But at the same time, I don't think teams have necessarily figured him out. He's just missing throws. Like, because it's not like they stopped this. It's not like they bottled up the run game. That won't happen. It's not like, I don't know. He's just not really completing passes at a high rate. Like, he wasn't the most accurate quarterback in the league last season either. From an accurate pass percentage, he was still below average. He was just able to hit big throws down the field for touchdowns at a high rate, which isn't there this year. And hence the reason he's had a massive statistical regression. But at the same time, he just looks different on tape, like on the field, in the pocket. Like, it's night and day from this year and last year. Like, last year, and even dating back to college, he was, like, more of a calm, cool, and collected in the pocket. Maybe not always calm, cool, and collected, but more of a quarterback who wanted to win passing in the pocket, to this year where he turned into somebody who's looking to create plays outside the pocket, outside of structure, basically every time he drops back, and it just doesn't look as good as it did the last couple of years. Dating back to college. So, yeah. On to the next video. On to the next game. We have the Carolina Panthers versus the Kansas City Chiefs. Chiefs coming off of a blowout win against the Jets. You know, the Jets are bad. The Panthers coming off of a loss on Thursday night against the Falcons. Pretty close loss, down the wire. They get McCaffrey back, which probably doesn't affect anything. If anything, it affects it negatively because having a running back, or having any running back with name value, not just McCaffrey, but having any running back with name value kind of makes you, especially one that you paid like the highest paid running back in the league from an annual salary standpoint. Like, having that guy on your team, or just any running back with name value, makes your offense less efficient due to the inclined interest to give the ball to him on early downs, and then you have Teddy Bridgewater or any quarterback in third and longs, third and mediums. I mean, that's not that bad, but third and longs. And, it gives you disadvantageous play. And especially when you have one like McCaffrey that you're inclined to give, like, 10 targets a game behind the line of scrimmage. Like, it's just going to make everything worse. And a good thing the Chiefs didn't do that when they got Le'Veon Bell. Because, he was terrible versus the Jets. Maybe he's just not a good running back. Maybe behind one of the best offensive lines in the NFL and his high volume, he put up big numbers. Because there was one season where he had like a 4.1 per carry, a really low forced missed tackle percentage, and he had led the league in carries by a mile, but still didn't even lead the league in yards. It was Kareem Hunt. I'd take Kareem over Le'Veon. There's a significant amount of running back to take over Le'Veon Bell. I'd take Clyde Edwards-Helaire over Le'Veon Bell, so why pick up Le'Veon Bell? Or why draft Clyde Edwards-Helaire when you could pick up Le'Veon Bell, but whatever. Anyway, I think the Chiefs win. They're 10.5 points. I think they cover that. The Jets aren't the Jets. The Panthers aren't that good. Mahomes has an MVP case right now. Like, looking at his box score numbers, he has 21 touchdowns to 1 interception, and he's like second in passing yards. I mean, he'll probably get the MVP hype later when people look at that touchdown to interception ratio. But, like, looking at the games, Mahomes, he's gotten away with at least 4 dropped interceptions this season. At least 4. Maybe more. Some fumbles that were negated. Like, it's not nearly as good as the box score for Mahomes. But he has been pretty good in recent weeks, especially saying that one of those games was against the New York Jets. So, yeah. Mahomes he has an MVP case, which he might build on this week against the Panthers, because the Panthers aren't that good of a team. They don't suck. I never thought they did, but they're just not that good. So, like, they're not on the same tier as the Chiefs, who are potentially the best team in the NFL. Like, I think they're still the best team in the NFL. Their offense hasn't been great all year, minus the fact that, like, they slaughtered the Ravens and looked phenomenal doing so. It feels like they're coasting through the season in a way. I feel like my preseason Super Bowl prediction of Bucs versus Chiefs, looks like it might be correct. Maybe, I don't know. I feel like the Bucs might be a letdown in the playoffs, though. We'll see about that, though. I mean, they have Antonio Brown, so yeah. Anyway, though, yeah, that's this game. The Chiefs, I think they'll probably steamroll the Panthers and move on to what record? Like 8-1 or whatever. So yeah. On to the next game, though. Houston Texans versus the Jacksonville Jaguars. The Houston Texans come into this game as 7-point favorites. Yeah, 7-point favorites. The Texans, I had higher expectation for the Texans this season. They have been bad, and I am more surprised than maybe some people are, because like the weapons they have aren't that bad, but their offense still somehow becomes bad, or is bad right now, because of, I don't know. Watson's been playing fine. I mean, they should have tried. I mean, they should have probably traded Will Fuller, saying that I wouldn't trade Will Fuller, but if you legitimately don't have the money to sign him, then you probably have to get something back for him. But yeah, this team is doomed. Whatever coach takes over this team just got probably the worst open coaching spot in the NFL. I mean, at least the Falcons have a potentially high pick and Calvin Ridley and Julio Jones. The Jets have 2 first-round picks, one of which probably being number 1 overall. And the Texans have no first-round picks and not that much cap space due to another bad trade that Bill O'Brien made, getting Laramie Tunsil. Like, Laramie Tunsil's been great, but one tackle on a bad offensive line doesn't make that big of a difference. And you also gave up 2 first-round picks to end up paying that same guy you gave the picks up for, meaning, like, I mean, you kind of just put yourself in a really weird situation, because you have to pay the guy and give up 2 first-round picks. So they don't have any first-round picks or cap space. So Will Fuller's potentially out. I mean, it could get bad, and it could get bad in Houston. It could get really bad in Houston. At least you had Deshaun Watson. That's the only glaring spot for Houston. If you were a coaching candidate, other than that, it's just doom. The Jaguars, who looked like in the beginning of the season like they were going to like be a tier above the bottom tier, in my opinion. Well, not in my opinion, but after their win against the Colts, they were going to be not that bad of a team, and they have had some close games, even like recently against the Chargers. Now they're not starting Gardner Minshew due to injury. They're starting Jake Luton. So 7 points seems a bit small for a Deshaun Watson-led team versus a Jake Luton-led team. So I'm going with Watson and the Texans. I almost said the Chargers for some reason. I'm going with Watson and the Texans to win and cover that number because Jake Luton, he went to Oregon State. I honestly didn't watch that much of him. But I mean, he's probably not that good. I mean, yeah, I'm gonna go with Houston to cover 7. So yeah, on to the next game. Atlanta Falcons versus the Denver Broncos. Now, the Denver Broncos coming into this game as 3.5-point dogs against the Atlanta Falcons. The Falcons coming off a win against the Panthers. Like they've looked, I wouldn't say they looked better with the new coach. They've played a really easy patch of schedule, like the Vikings, the Panthers, who else did they play in that stretch of time? I'm not 100% sure, but they've had an easier stretch of schedule with Morris at coach than Quinn, so they've looked better as a product, but from like a game plan, game flow standpoint, play calling standpoint, it's still trash. I mean, their addiction to running the ball with Todd Gurley on early downs, despite the fact that he's been playing disgustingly bad. Brian Hill is the best running back on the team. Like he just looks way faster, way more explosive. He's better when he actually takes the carries as well. He's better than Todd Gurley at this point. But yeah, the Broncos on the other hand, coming off of a win against the Chargers, the Broncos had their first not the Broncos, but Drew Lock had his first good game of the season or a good half of his career. He was pretty good in the second half of that game. Made some nice throws. Other than that, he hadn't really been good at all. I don't even know if he flashed being good at all either. But the fact that people were so high on the Broncos coming into the season always felt odd to me. Ended up beating the Chargers, who might just suck, but we'll get into that a bit later. In fact, this is the game after this one, but they end up beating the Chargers. I don't think they'll beat the Falcons. I don't think the Broncos are that good of a team at all. I mean, Drew Lock's not good. Despite the one, maybe this is going to be a trend. Maybe that one half of football is what is going to be Drew Lock's new baseline. Maybe. I don't know. I doubt it will be. So Atlanta, -3. I'm going to go with Atlanta to win and cover. I think they're better than the Broncos. But then again, this is Atlanta, and I want to stop picking Atlanta, but I don't think I can, man. They have so many just good prices, and just to fuck me over literally every time. So I'm gonna go with Atlanta, which means Denver's probably gonna win because this is Atlanta we're talking about. But yeah, Atlanta, at least against the Vikings, looked like a significantly better team than they did the rest of the season. I wouldn't say that's true for the other games. Just because they held on to the game against the Panthers doesn't mean that they were actually better than normal. Because they still had some places where they could have got edges and missed them, some fourth down stuff. It's just some raw play calling stuff that was pretty not good. So yeah, I'm gonna go with Atlanta, who I've backed them in almost every game. But yeah, on to the next one. We have Chargers versus the Raiders. Justin Herbert's Chargers versus Derek Carr, the Raiders. Chargers coming off of a game-losing drive. Drew Lock came down, won the game on them. Justin Herbert, whatever. I think he's a bit overrated right now. He's good, but nowhere near as good as people think he is. So, yeah. He's creating these chunk plays, but he's not nearly as consistent as Joe Burrow, which is represented in the offensive EPA being in the 20s, where Burrow is in the teens. The Chargers are 22nd in EPA per play on offense, where the Bengals are 17th. So, I mean, Justin Herbert is still leading one of the least efficient offenses in the NFL. Where the Raiders are the 6th most efficient offense in the NFL, which is very, very interesting. Kind of unlikely. The Raiders are coming into this game. They've been good. They've been good on offense. When Henry Ruggs is on the field, they're attacking downfield. Derek Carr has been more aggressive this season when Henry Ruggs is on the field. Minus that Browns game, but even still, he had a nice throw to Henry Ruggs that was dropped in the end zone, or it could have been a touchdown. I mean, that game is just super heavy conditions. It's basically a pick line at 1 point in favor of the Chargers. I don't know. You can get as high as plus 1.5 for the Raiders. I mean, at that price, maybe, because I don't think that the Chargers are better than the Raiders. Though I don't think the Raiders are that good, but I think that's a pretty damn good price for a Raiders team that's not terrible, at least. I feel like there could be a lot of points this game, though. Potentially. Because like the last couple of weeks, the Broncos have been an elite offense against not the Broncos. The Chargers have been an elite offense versus the Bucs, Saints, and Jags, and the Broncos. Which I doubt that stops here against the Raiders. So, that being said, Baltimore, damn. Total is 53. Damn, that's actually kind of a good number. Damn. I don't know. I'm going to go with the Raiders to win, though. I think this might be the first time I backed them all season, but, I mean, I think they're solid. I think they're average. I think they're an average team, where I think the Chargers are below average. Not even from a roster standpoint, because the Chargers, from a straight roster standpoint, are probably better than the Raiders. Like, defensively, they have Bosa. Casey Hayward's injured. Casey Hayward is playing, I think. Chris Harris is injured. Desmond King traded. Like, they look like they're selling. Where in the beginning of the season, it looked like they were a team that was just a quarterback away. Like, in 2018, this team was like 13-3 or whatever the hell they were. And now you come into this season where it looked like you're a quarterback away, and Justin Herbert comes in, quote-unquote, one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL, and still can't win with a roster that was basically built to win. Now, QB wins is a god-awful stat, especially when using it to talk about players. But on a roster that's actually talented, the fact that Herbert has one career win might be some sort of alarming. I don't know. Because it's like, he's good, but he's good at literally everything that's not sustainable over a long period of time. His third down efficiency is hyper efficient. He's tied in the league for most touchdowns on deep passes with Russell Wilson. I mean, that stuff could stay the same for him. In that case, he's on like a GOAT level trajectory. Or it could regress a little bit on top of him not being really that great at anything else right now. Maybe running. On top of him not being great at anything else right now other than running. Like, that's not a good mix for the future. Like, this could come crashing down on its face pretty damn hard. So, yeah. That's my TED Talk on the Chargers and Justin Herbert. I might make a video about it. At this point, it'd probably come out next week on Wednesday if it ever happens. I think I want to do it, but I'll see. The mock draft is coming out this Friday, though, in terms of other video content on the channel. But yeah, on to the next game, though. Dallas Cowboys versus the Pittsburgh Steelers. It's a really bad situation in Dallas right now. You go from Dak to Dalton to Ben DiNucci to Cooper Rush. And they're playing against the Pittsburgh Steelers. This is kind of like maybe a game where, like, okay, the Cowboys are about to go into their bye week. Dalton's not ready to come back. Let's just throw somebody in and get past the bye week. Honestly, they should probably tank from this point. If I were Dallas, I probably would. Like, you could get Trevor Lawrence, Justin Fields. And it's like, Justin Fields, I don't know how much better he is than Dak Prescott. Or will be than Dak Prescott. But he's a pretty damn good quarterback prospect, I'll tell you that for sure. And he's much cheaper than Dak Prescott as well. So, He's way more team friendly than Dak Prescott would be from a contract standpoint. So you'd be back in the situation you were in back in 2016 in Dak's rookie season with Justin Fields instead of Dak Prescott. Except for, like, maybe the defense is the worst in the NFL, but sure. Other than that, you're fine. Anyway, I mean, not even anyway. You have to have that. That has to be in consideration to some extent, because there's no way you're saying there's like based off what we've seen from both of the teams. Like, if I were Dallas, I'd cut bait on Mike McCarthy. I'd tank fully. I'd attempt my hardest to get Trevor Lawrence, and then you look better for the future because Trevor Lawrence is potentially a better quarterback than Dak will be in the NFL. He's potentially a better quarterback in the NFL than Dak Prescott. I mean, I think people's perception is skewed of Dak Prescott due to his injury. People skew more positively on him, and because of his passing yards, people skew more positively on him than he actually was on the field. I mean, like, he was a middle-tier quarterback with an elite supporting cast. That didn't randomly go away. The difference between him and DiNucci might be bigger than between him and Dalton might be bigger than we might have thought going into the season. Even though, like, Dalton hasn't. He hasn't been great throwing the ball, but I don't think he's been nearly as bad as the stats show or the record shows because they're just running the ball with Zeke almost every play, putting Dalton in 3rd and 8, 3rd and 9. And he's Andy Dalton, so that's just a difficult situation for someone like him to overcome. Because he's not an elite quarterback, and I don't think Dak is either. But, I mean, yeah. On the other side, the Steelers, they look pretty good. Really good. Well, I think they look worse than their record. Like, I don't think they're the best team in the NFL, despite being 7-0. But they're coming into this game 13-point favorites. 14-point favorites, 13.5-point favorites. So, I think they cover that, honestly. Cooper Rush is terrible. Yeah. So that's the quick talk on the Steelers because I don't know. There's not much to say about this game except for how shit Dallas is. Like, if the Steelers don't steamroll them, then it's just going to be an issue. And Pittsburgh has a problem. On to the next game, though. We have the Miami Cardinals. Damn. We have the Miami Dolphins versus the Arizona Cardinals. I literally read the thing and said I wasn't going to say that and still ended up saying that. Arizona Cardinals versus Miami Dolphins. Dolphins coming off of a really convincing win versus the Rams. The Cardinals coming off of a bye week. And before that, they came off of beating Seattle, which is a huge win. I was lower on the Cardinals. I still am. That's literally the first offensive performance they've had that's been good. So, I'm not just going to completely flip what I said about them because of 1 week of evidence. I suggest the other way. But Miami's been pretty good. Defensively, they're really good. They have, like, the lowest points allowed per game. I mean, the EPA on that's much lower than the points per game, which is heavily skewed by a game where the Jets scored 0. But they're 6th in EPA per play allowed on defense. So the 6th best defense in the league in terms of EPA. Like, I thought the defense would be good coming into the season. It has been. And they have been what I expected them to be. 2 is in now. 2-1, his first start. You know, QB win stat. Got to get it pumping early. He wasn't good that game. I mean, let's be honest. He really wasn't good. I mean, he had a throw drop. He had a deep ball to Gesicki that was put on him that was, like, dropped / broken up, I guess. He got ripped out of Gesicki's hands, let's say that. I mean, not let's say that, like, that's what happened. He got ripped out of Gesicki's hands. He wasn't that great, though. He really wasn't that great. On the other hand, though, the Cardinals. I think the Cardinals are still probably a bit overrated. Like, I think the division as a whole, the NFC West is overrated as a whole. Like, I feel like they're good, and I feel like they were supposed to be the best division, which they still are from a record standpoint. But they haven't performed on field as you might expect them to. I mean, I think the Seahawks are clearly a tier above, or multiple tiers above every other team in this division. And the 49ers aren't that good either. I mean, they have a win against They have a win against the Jags, and not the Jags, the Giants, the Jets, the Rams, who only wins came up against the NFC East, and the Bears, who I don't think are good either. I mean, the Cardinals have won some games, but they've capitalized on teams just being bad, like Washington and the 49ers. So I don't think this division is as good as it was advertised as. Because I thought it was going to be a great division. I think I said that the Rams could play worse than they did last year and still come out with a better record because their schedule's easy. They play the NFC East, and I was right. So, yeah. I'm going to go with Arizona. Wait, who's the favorite in this game? Arizona? It's Arizona. See, that Miami plus 4.5, plus 5 is enticing. Real enticing. I mean, I don't know. Because I really don't think that they're that good. I don't think the Cardinals are that good. I think people might be overreacting to the fact that Tua wasn't that good last game. Or I don't even know if people realize that at this point. They just saw that he won the game, so he had to have been great. Anyway, plus 4.5 Miami seems like a... You know what? I'm going to go with plus 4.5 Miami plus 4.5 because I like that. I like that line for them. I think they could win. I don't think I'll pick them outright. I think I'll have the Cardinals win with a Miami cover, actually. Because I think Miami is a plucky, tough team. Now, if Tua plays like he did last week, maybe that doesn't happen. Because he actually wasn't that good last week, but, yeah. On to the next one. The next game. We have the game of the week. The game of the week. Sunday Night Football. New Orleans Saints versus the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Tom Brady versus Drew Brees. The game that the Bucs look great. Not against the Jets. Not against the Giants though. They didn't look that good against the Giants. But I think overall as a team, overall of the season, they did look great. And I did say that could have been a bit of a letdown spot for the team against the Giants with this game looming the next week, with them getting AB, Chris Godwin back the next week. I feel like the Bucs from a straight roster talent standpoint are significantly better than the Saints. When I said that it was probably the opposite in the beginning of the season. Well, no, I didn't think they were that far apart, actually. I thought the Saints had the best overall roster. Their defense has been terrible, but sure. Last time these two teams played, the Saints won. Brady looked better than a lot of people would give him credit for. The first interception, that wasn't his fault. Miscommunication from Mike Evans. And, the second one was pretty bad. Has some nice throws dropped. He's been playing way better than his stats were until the stats actually started to come. And then it kind of flipped. He kind of started playing worse than his stats were. But, yeah, I'm going to go with... Oh, shit. I didn't even read the line. Tampa Bay, -5. Hold on. Because that seems like a wide spread. Whoa, pause. That seems like and it went up from 4.5 on the look ahead. That's also another interesting part about all that too. Interesting, very interesting. See, 5.5. If you can get the Saints as high as plus 5.5, you see, that's enticing. That is really enticing. I do think the Bucs are better though, but plus 5.5 seems like that's a bit too much. The Saints haven't looked good though. That is another thing. It is a game that's outside, and we know what the Saints do outside. Well, Drew Brees outside just isn't. You know what? Fuck that. Anyway, I'm gonna go with Tampa Bay. Maybe a Saints cover. 5.5 is a big backdoor to slip into. Like, they could be down by a pretty good amount. I don't know. I'm gonna go with the Bucs to cover. I think the Bucs are much better than the Saints. I think they have a much better quarterback. I think they have a much better receiver group with that quarterback. I think Mike Evans will be back for this game though, so both of these teams will be as close to full strength as they have been all season. So yeah, because I think Godwin's back too. But if he's not, it doesn't really matter because they have Antonio Brown now, who is better than Godwin and Mike Evans. Um, I don't know what people think about the signing, but I mean, if people think that Antonio Brown's not the best receiver on the team, you have to kind of reevaluate because he was arguably the best receiver in all the NFL before he yeah. But okay, Saints will follow the Bucks. I think the Bucks will cover it as well. So yeah, on to the last game of the video. I'm not gonna do the fantasy preview. Honestly, because I just don't feel like it. Maybe I'll get some quick. Maybe I'll give some quick stuff at the outro of the podcast. I don't know. We'll see. Last game, the real game of the week, Jets Pats. The Pats look bad. Okay, let me not say that. They looked much better against the Bills. The Jets, on the other hand, though, they look bad. They look bad, like real bad. So let me talk about Trevor Lawrence for a minute, man. My mock draft is not even Trevor Lawrence, like that. Let me talk about my mock draft for a minute. My mock draft coming out on Friday, tomorrow. A matter of fact, I'm recording it on Wednesday, so saying tomorrow feels kind of weird. But okay, Friday. My mock draft's coming out on Friday. You see, it's gonna be the Jets are picking number one. Make sure you put on the post notifications for when that video drops, so you get notified when I drop. So you get notified when I drop that video. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Trevor Lawrence to the Jets at number one in my mock draft. I'll spoil that pick. It's obvious at this point. If they don't go with it, it's crazy. That's just bad. That's just bad. But yeah, COVID out. I actually want to see what DJ does versus Notre Dame. I think DJ's a pretty good player. I think he is a prospect for the future. I thought he was in high school. He looked the part in college. We'll see what he does in a larger sample size. Well, not a larger sample size, but against a legit team in Notre Dame. So we'll see what happens there. Anyway, this isn't a Clemson preview. This is a New York Jets preview. Who wants to talk about this shit? I mean, the Pats could really tank if they wanted to. They're in the top 10 pick-wise for like the first time in about 99 years, it seems. But, okay. Yeah, the Pats. Honestly, if they have a chance to pick a quarterback, I would do it. Because Cam is cool and all, but if you could get up to maybe like pick 3, 2, get Justin Fields, I mean, that seems like a better play than Cam Newton long term, based off the age thing. Or you get like Trey Lance. Like, I think you're in a spot where you could actually get a franchise quarterback for the first time in 20 years when they got Tom Brady. Like, you have a chance to get a franchise type quarterback. So, I mean, shit, I don't know. I might take it, honestly. The Jets, on the other hand, they have to get their franchise quarterback. If they don't draft Trevor Lawrence, that's honestly the worst pick of the century. No matter what the other guy is, I don't give a damn if Penei Sewell becomes Joe Thomas but better, you still made the wrong pick. Even if Trevor Lawrence becomes like, I don't know, like Kirk Cousins, you still made the wrong pick. Because Kirk Cousins is still going to affect your team. Like, Kirk Cousins still has more value than Joe Thomas. Like, a quarterback that's not bad, though Kirk Cousins is probably a good quarterback. I don't think he's elite. But a good quarterback definitely affects your team more than the best tackle in the NFL. Hence the reason Joe Thomas has been on teams with bad quarterbacks. And he has like a career record of like 14-70 or whatever the hell. So yeah. This is the end of the video though. I barely talked about the game. I have the Pats winning. The Pats are and covering. They're only 7-point favorites, so yeah. Hope you guys enjoy. Like, comment, subscribe. Turn on post notifications for everything that drops. And I'm out. Peace.